Okay, I'm going to share my screen for just a second and tell you a little bit about Becca. Becca, I'm really excited to introduce you to Becca Lewis. She's a writer, speaker, teacher, and coach who shares how to shift our perceptions in order to make permanent changes in our lives. She's been my mentor for several years now, and I have grown so much working with her, and I'm excited that she's going to be sharing her genius with you. I am going to stop sharing now, and Becca, Becca,
There I am.
there you go.
Yeah, I got it.
Cool.
Oh my goodness, we're all learning. You're doing such a great job though, Heidi.
Oh.
I'm so delighted that I get to be part of this. So thank you.
Well, I am so excited that you're here with us today. So I am going to mute and stop my video so that you can share and take over. I have to stop. I don't want to mute until I'm ready, but hey, learning. Okay.
It works.
It works. Okay. Thank you so much, Becca.
Let's see if I can share my screen now. We're all going to learn this together. Here we go. All right. Yeah, I did it. So can everybody see that? Because I can't see you anymore. Is everybody still there? I hope so, because
yes, we're still here.
Okay, because it just takes up my whole screen. Okay, so what we're going to do today is let me start this slideshow from the beginning. There we go. So we're doing something I'm calling story time. And for me, story time it's always story time, but the word that we're going to concentrate on today is shifting the story. And yes.
Becca, just a second. Are you? We aren't seeing your screen.
I am sharing my screen though. Why is it not showing anything? Okay, that's not good. Hold on. Okay, yes. All right. All right, there's where I was. Okay, story shifting time, but let me get to the right slideshow. Here we go. Now we're on track. All right, so story time is what we're going to do together, and I'm just delighted that Heidi gave me a chance to start you off, because this is such kind of a historical thing to do for all of us, that we get to really shift a story. And for me, getting ready to do this was definitely a story shifting time for me too. So Heidi told you what I wanted to get done today, and this is, let me see. All right, so this is what we're doing today. We want to get practical tips and tools to get the most out of life. And I think I can do it within 30 minutes. I'm kidding. We want to expand joy, reduce drudgery, uncover and discard what doesn't work for you, make room for ideas and solutions that will amp up your inspiration and energy, resulting in expanded possibilities for everyone. So not just for you, but you're here because you want to be teaching and helping other people. So I'm hoping, like Heidi, that what I bring to you in the next few minutes is something that you can use to go forward to change not only your life, but the people that you want to inspire. I know you want to pass the inspiration on and give your students and whether they're your students or your children, renewed sense of energy. I know you want to lead by example, but not burn yourself out at the same time. So let me see if I can live up to that. I figure my job is to give you a few tools that will help you now, as much as possible, get the most as you can from the next few days, but also so you can continue using those tools as you go forward in your homeschooling journey, or just in the things that you do in your own life. So I have been teaching the shift principles, which is what we're going to talk a little bit about today, my whole life. As far as I can remember, it seems self-evident to me, not to everybody else, but to me. But I didn't formally start teaching until after I spent a few lifetimes doing other things. I was a dancer. I taught dance. I was an artist. For a long time, I was a certified financial planner. And then back in the old days, back in the 90s, I decided that I would really start focusing on what I felt like I was here to do, which was to help shift perceptions. So as Heidi mentioned, now I teach, I coach, I write blogs, I write books, I write email courses, and I do my best to get the ideas into practice for myself and help others do the same thing. So I love the simplicity of perception shifting, which is what we're going to do together this morning. So let's see if I can get my thing to work the way it's, there we go. Okay, Muriel Reichheiser said that the universe is made of stories, not of atoms. Now, you must have figured it out already that I totally think this is true. It's the stories we have told ourselves, the stories that the world believes and promotes, the ones we dream, the ones we are afraid of, the ones that move us forward, the ones that make up our days, and ultimately, not only our own life, but those we hope to inspire. So in that way, it's always story time. So stories make up our lives. And for me, obviously, it's the word shifting that makes all the difference, because shifting is a rewrite, which of course we can do, because if a story has been told, we can rewrite it. Although shifting our perceptions has always been what I have taught in my shift classes. Now, as an author, since I've written a lot more books, I know even more about how easy it is and necessary it is to rewrite a story. We get to, and what I want to do today is show you the possibilities or expand the possibilities for you about what you can do, because you can shift the story you want until it's a story you want to live. Going back to writing a book. When we write a book, we ask the same questions we could be asking about in life. Does this make sense? How does this move the story forward? Do I really want my characters to do that? As an author, I write, rewrite, fix, get others to look at it, and then edit it again and again and again until the story works. Basically, I'm shifting the story until it's the story I want to tell. And it's precisely the same thing in life. Stories make up our days. Everything is a story, from how we wash or do not wash our dishes, to how we learn and then share and teach what we know, which of course is why we are all here today. We are all here to learn and then share and teach what we have learned to the best of our ability. Now, I added that phrase, to the best of your ability, because that is also a story we can rewrite and make better. Before we each came to this conference, we all had stories we have based our abilities upon. We tell ourselves that we're good at this, bad at that. Stories. The question is, do you want to shift that story so your abilities to learn, then teach, and then share are improved dramatically or not? And I believe, and I know Heidi believes, that you do. And that's my story. I'm pausing here on purpose because I want you to hear what you think I should have said after that. But I want to say this to you. Never say this again. I didn't say that last part on purpose. You know, the one you said in your head? Here's the deal. Never, 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 I really mean never, say this phrase again. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. I hear people who should know better saying that story, that little phrase all the time, and I'm sticking to it. And I want to go, no, don't say that. Never, never say That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. I know that sometimes we like our story. It's a good one. Or we're so sick of changing the way things are, and we've all had a chance to experience change that rewrote our story perhaps without our permission. Or we have a story that at least we know how to handle it. We know that it's going to break down here and go there. And I know I'm not good at this. I know I'm good at this. But still, it's a story. So never say, I'm sticking to it. And you know why? You already know why this. So when I show this to you, you're going to say, oh, yeah, I know that. The subconscious cannot tell the difference between what's true, not true, real, or imagined. So for heaven's sakes, why do we keep telling the subconscious the same old story? Not when we have the possibility to live, and we do live, within unlimited possibilities. So we can always do better. Even if we have the best story we ever imagined, it's like, oh my God, I never imagined that I could be here. It's fantastic. We still can do better because it's infinite possibilities, not this little small possibility. So this is what we can do. And this is what we're going to do today. We are going to imagine a better story. I didn't say visualize a better story on purpose. I really believe in visualization, but it has its limits. And I can't go into that right now, or I'll take up the whole conference. So just imagine a better story. And I promise you that even though I can't go into the difference between imagination and visualization today, Heidi is giving away, or I'm giving away, and Heidi's doing it for me, this book, Imagination Mastery. It's a workbook for shifting your reality. So after the whole conference is over, she's going to give you the link. Go get this book, and it will help explain the difference between imagination and visualization in a way that will work for you. And it will take you through many of the, especially one of the tools I'm going to be talking about today. So if you listen to me and say, what all did she say? Go get the book. It will answer a lot of your questions. So this is what we're focusing on today. We're focusing on rewriting the story. If I can do anything for you today, I want you to recognize that no matter how bad or how good the current story is that you're telling yourself, and really there's thousands of them, but whatever story you're focusing on right now, it can get better. No matter how many eyes look at the books I write, someone will find a problem with it. And I can always make it better. With every book I write, I do get better at my craft. With every day that we live, we get better at each day. The difference is, of course, as a book, eventually I have to let it be. Wait, there is no difference. Eventually, your stories that have made up your life have to be either rewritten or walked away from. So don't stick to a story. Put it behind you or rewrite it. And by the way, every time you tell a story about what you remember from the past, it's a rewrite anyway. Memories are never accurate, ever. Rewrite even when we don't mean to. Bill Bryson has a new book out called The Body. It's so interesting. Actually, it's so interesting. It's freaky, but it's worth reading. And the chapter on the brain will answer some questions about teenagers that might be helpful to those of you teaching teenagers. But the part where he explains memory reminds us that when we remember something, we put it back with different parts. I have a memory of living in Venice, California in the 70s. True. I have proof, I have pictures. In that memory, I helped a woman paint pictures that ended up in hotels. You know, the pictures when you go to a hotel and it looks like someone painted it, but you've seen that kind of picture before. Yes, that's true. I did help a woman paint pictures that ended up in hotels. But in my memory, I have her living in behind my house where I grew up. I would walk out the back door, walk up the little hill to where she lived, and paint pictures. That part is not true. Those two places are at opposite ends of the United States. But I remembered that false story for so long that now I have no idea where she lived. Did we paint in State College, Pennsylvania, where I grew up? Or did we paint in Venice? Or did we never paint? I don't know, because I recalled that false memory for so long it got stuck. So let's not get stuck. Today, let's become aware of a story or two and then rewrite it to help you hear, remember, and use what the speakers share in the rest of the rest of this conference. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to shift the story. But first, we're going to take us back to writing a book. In every story, there is a protagonist and an antagonist. It's good versus evil. Since this isn't a writing class, we won't talk about variations on that theme. Instead, we'll talk about you. The story that brought you here today, because there was a story that brought you here today, it was a good story, brought you here today, makes you the protagonist, the good guy. And the thoughts in your head about how it will go is the bad guy, even if it's good thoughts. It's the antagonist, and I'll explain why I'm saying that. Some thoughts might be good, but they're still going to be distracting if they're not working in your favor. But we're just going to focus on the bad thoughts, the antagonist thoughts, the bad guy, the resistance, the monkey mind, the blah, blah, blah that likes to inhabit our stories and will try a multitude of ways to make sure you don't squeeze all the goodness that Heidi and all the other speakers have prepared for you for the next few days. You know why? Because the antagonist controls the story, any story. It says to itself and us that if there is going to be a change, it's going to be its way. It's going to work in its favor. I said the antagonist controls the story, but only when we don't know what it's doing. So one thing it doesn't want us to do is actually think for itself and notice it. It doesn't want us to be the writer of our own life. No. So it will remind us that we are tired in more ways than one, that online learning is hard, that nothing changes anyway, that the people we hope to help don't really want it, don't listen, aren't worth the energy, that no one supports us, that there isn't enough time, money, or love to make it worthwhile. We're stressed. Okay, I did drift off a little there, but those stories are always there in the background. The stories that we don't learn well this way, that we aren't smart enough, or we are too smart because we already know what that speaker is trying to tell us. Stories, 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 every blasted one of them. So yes, it's always story time, but the word, as you know, that we are embracing today and hopefully into the future is shifting. We're going to shift the story. So I'm going to give you 3 things we have to do to shift the story. We have to listen, we have to let go, then we have to listen, then we have to let go, then we have to listen, let go. We have to do that a lot before we can get to the rewrite. Letting go is the first part, even though I put listen. You have to let go in order to listen, but sometimes we have to listen to let go. So they go back and forth. Yeah, I would love to go off on this tangent. I know you can tell, but I want to get to the part about rewriting and shifting. So let's get to the rewrite and talk about the one thing that everybody has to do to rewrite a story. Any story. Doesn't even have to be about the one today. It's anyone. It's about the story that's going to happen next week. Anything. This is what you have to do. You have to be willing to rewrite the story. It's that simple. So what we're going to do today is discover a little bit about what you are willing to do and not. And nobody's going to know but you, so it doesn't matter. You don't have to tell anybody. Because the things that happen and don't happen without our conscious awareness is when the antagonist is writing our story. We don't need an antagonist or a ghostwriter to write our life, even though that's mostly what's going on. But we can be willing to do it. My husband and I, during this time, have been, or we just finished, rewatching the CBS series, The Good Wife. And if you're looking for a good show to watch with great writing, I recommend it. But near the end of the season, the end of the show, Alicia has a major breakdown. And she finally asks for help from her friend Luca. There's a point here. It took her a long time to ask for help. So one of the things, a story you might want to rewrite, or we all need to rewrite, is to learn how to ask for help faster. But anyway, Alicia breaks down. She starts crying on Luca's shoulder, which is really odd because she never did that before. And Luca's patting her on the back. And then she says, "Yes, I will be here. I'm your friend. Don't you know this?" That's actually quite sad now I think about it. So sad in a good way. So Luca takes hold of Alicia's shoulders and pushes her back a little. And she says, "I will be here for you. But first, you have to be willing." Alicia nods that she is. And Luca says, "No, you have to say it out loud," which she does. And that begins to turn the problem around. So no, I can't see you because your video is off, but you can see me. So I'm going to just imagine that you're doing this with me. So if you're by yourself, and it makes it even better because I want you to say it really loud. If there's someone in the other room and you might scare them by doing this, you can say it softly, but I want you to say "I am willing" out loud with me when I say it, because you're going to feel the difference between just thinking, "Yeah, I'm willing," and we're going to shout it out loud. Well, I'm not going to shout it because I don't want to break your eardrums, but if you're ready to say, "I am willing." So if you didn't say it that time, say it with me now. I am willing. Okay. So let's discover what's writing our stories. And since we are now willing, we're going to shift it. And by the way, obviously it's often good to be not willing, but we're so not willing to do so many things. I don't want to cover that today. I want to talk about being willing, or sometimes we have to be willing to be not willing, but mostly we have to be conscious about the why, because the why is imperative for any good rewrite and definitely for good shifting. So now it's time for action, because doing it together will magnify these results. So I am imagining again, it's like I can't see you, that you all took out a tablet or a piece of paper, because I'm assuming that you have something that you're going to take notes on. And some of you are thinking, well, I'm going to take notes on my computer, and if I can just go, okay, fine, but not for this. If you will use a piece of paper and write it with your hands, it's much more powerful. It's like saying out loud, "I am willing." So you're going to write this. I am willing to listen with new ears and take action on what I learned today. So I'm just going to, I imagine you all writing, "I am willing to listen with new ears and take action on what I learned today." You're doing it right. So if you're not doing it, it actually is going to help in a strange way, but I still want you to do it, because I want you to notice why you did it or why you didn't do it. It's really important. The whole idea of noticing, because nothing can really run your story if you notice that it's doing it. You can say to it, "I don't want you to run my story anymore." But if you don't notice it, it just keeps driving the car. And you already know, since you're all teachers, You already know that writing something tells our subconscious mind that we are serious about it. And since it's a subconscious, unconscious mind that's driving the story of our lives, trying to give us what we want, we have to consciously tell it, we are serious. Stop giving me that. Stop writing that story. I don't need it anymore. And maybe I never did. It's just like a computer. It gives you back what you put into it. The unconscious mind gives back what it has learned and accepted from you and the worldview. Yes, that's a story, but we can't rewrite everything in the next 10 minutes. It would be like A.J. Jacobs. You know what he did? He decided to thank everyone who supplied his morning coffee, starting with his barista. And 2 years later, as he followed the chain back, he realized it might go on forever. So this little thing that we're going to do together might go on forever, but that's the good news, really, because every rewrite opens alternative possibilities, infinite possibilities. Okay, so this is what you did. You listened to what the antagonist said. Remember what we said? Listen, let go, rewrite. What did that antagonist say to you? I'm going to give you some examples since I can't. And while you're listening to me, if you can write in the chat room some of the things that I'm going to ask you, because then if we have time, I'm sure we will, we can go through some of this, actually go through some of this. So what the antagonist, or the person that doesn't, the thing in your head that's not you, remember you're not the antagonist, might have said like things like this. What 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 does she know? What, it won't work anyway. I'm tired, I'm hungry, I have to go to the bathroom, I need to get coffee, I'm not paying any attention. But first we have to let go of the belief that you're an antagonist, and then we can rewrite the story. So I'm going to give you my special tool out of my special tool bag of my Face and Replace tool bag. This is one of my favorite rewrite tools, and it's so cleverly named. It's called an I choose sheet. It's just so clever. So you'll see why, because this is what we're going to do. You are going to change the phrase that you wrote in the beginning. So you wrote in the beginning, I know you did, I'm trusting you did, I'm willing to listen with new ears and take action on what I learned today. So you're going to cross out that I am willing, and you're going to write, I choose to listen with new ears and take action on what I learned today. This is the I choose sheet. I'm going to show you how it works. But to make the I choose sheet work, we have to be willing to learn. So the favorite thing to write is just a really simple thing. I choose to be willing to learn. I'm going to listen to why I am resisting that. I'm going to let go of it, and I'm going to rewrite it. So this is what it would sound like on your sheet. You wrote, I choose to be willing to learn. In your head, you might have heard something. I'm going to make up stuff, but maybe I'll hit some of it that you're thinking about. You might have heard in your head, I don't need to learn too much. Or let's just go, I am probably going to be bored. Well, this is, you would hear that, but what you would write next is, I choose to not be bored. Well, I'm probably going to get tired and fall asleep. I choose to not be tired and fall asleep. Someone will call and want my attention or distract me. You would write, I choose to not be distracted. Or on and on. This list, when I said it could go on forever, it definitely could go on forever. But since this rewrite is all about trying to help you get to the place where everything that everybody says to you the next 2 days just goes right in and inspires you and changes what you do for yourself, and then what you do for your students. We are always rewriting. So when you do these I choose sheets, You don't have to worry about whether you can, no one's going to read it but you. So it doesn't matter how messy it is or what you write it on. And once you finish the sheet, when you get to the end of it where you listen, I choose to be willing to learn, and there's no other voice in your head saying why you can't learn or you're not willing, well, you're done with that sheet. So shred it, burn it, throw it away. If you find yourself once again needing to write, I choose to be willing to learn, do another I choose sheet, but you don't need to go back and do drafts, because the antagonist, the monkey mind, the saboteur, the resistor, whatever you call it, is not you. And like all antagonists in my books and every book, it lies. We have to face what it says and replace it with what you want. Face and replace. Running away will not rewrite the story. We have to face it and replace it. We have to listen, let go, and rewrite. So remember that song, What Did the Fox Say? Well, in this case, we're asking what the antagonist says, and we are going to choose the opposite of what it says too. So we're going to choose to hear it differently, choose to look at it differently, and choose to understand. We'll come back to that at the end, so we have time. I can do some I choose sheets from things that people actually said. So remember, the antagonist runs the story. The antagonist doesn't want to die. Too bad. You're in charge. You are the writer. Rewrite the story. The villains in my stories, when I'm writing fiction, not in the nonfiction, the fiction stories, the villain doesn't want to die. And that's why it runs the story. And sometimes I actually feel sorry for the villains, but still, they have a choice. Even in fiction, they have a choice to repent, which actually means turn around and walk the other way, or shift, or die in life, metaphorically, of course. But not only can you use this tool to help yourself rewrite your stories, but you can help your students rewrite their stories. So the I choose sheet works well with students also. But first, you have to rewrite your story about your students. So you have to uncover any story that you're telling about them and you and them, and the story that goes between you, in order to rewrite it. So you have to rewrite how you see your students, and that makes space for them to be willing to learn and to be willing to rewrite theirs. And we said in the beginning that the key to rewriting any story is to be willing. Here is the whole reason right here. What you perceive to be reality magnifies. This is not what I perceive to be reality. It's not what Heidi perceives to be reality. It's not what your next door neighbor or your mom or your dad or your kid or your students or the freaking world views to be reality. It's what each one of us perceives to be reality magnifies. So basically, I'm saying to you, your story, as you keep saying it, magnifies. So make sure that the story you want is the story you want to live. Remember, stories are not solid. They are a story, and you can rewrite it. So here's what you can choose to do. Choose the reality that you want for you in the next few days. Be willing that it is true for you. Magnify the reality you want. Choose to be willing to learn helpful things that will shift your life. Choose to be willing to know that you have the ability and time and willingness and focus and anything else you need. Choose to be willing to say no to false, old, unwanted stories. Make room for better ones, and it could get better every day. Choose to be willing to take action so that the story you live in now can get better. And that means I am ready for answering questions. And Heidi, going back to seeing you so you can ask me the questions. And I think I have to stop sharing my screen. Is that right?
You can, well, not to answer questions. Let me look at the chat. So yes, if you have a question for Becca, let's see this. Now you were going to talk to me about possibly do like an I choose somebody. So does anybody have something that they would like Becca to work through with an I choose sheet?
If not, Heidi, I'm going to pick on you.
Oh no.
So somebody better help her out. Help her out, please.
Oh, you know what? She says, Aletta says, can you give us some examples of stories we tell about our kids or students?
Yes, but I bet someone has one that can just tell me a story that they say about your kid and your students, right? I have 3 kids, and then my husband has 5, but they're all grown. I have grandchildren, so I could tell you stories, but I bet you all have one. So does anybody have one that I can use as a jump off point?
Michelle has one. She says, hold on a second. She says, my son and I are so different. Our personalities clash and we don't get along.
That's a good one. That's a good story. So what I would do, I have a son, so I know that at one point I was teaching a dance class, and he was trying to run the dance class, and he was 5, and I was the mom, and I had to finally ask him to leave the room. So I understand exactly what you're saying. So I would do this. I would write an I choose sheet that says this: I choose to have my son and my stories not clash. So I would make that my I choose sheet. So you can write it cleaner than that, but I would write that. And then I would also write to myself on the side, I am willing for this to be true, just so you can get to the willing state. So as you listen to that, I choose for our stories not to clash, I'm shortening it up, you're going to hear reasons why they clash. I'll just use my son as an example. So our stories sometimes clash because we both like running things. So those of you who know my son go, oh yeah. So I would have to have said at the time, if I would have known better, I choose that our stories allow for one person to be the leader. And then I might hear in my head, well, he'll never change. He'll always be that way. I choose for him to change for us to get along. Well, you won't change, Becca, I might have said to myself. I choose to be willing to change so I can let him lead sometimes. And I would have to keep listening to the story in my head saying, okay, this has been going on our whole life. I choose to understand how to change it now. Because of course our stories have been going on our whole life. It's the story we've been telling. It'd be like if we picked up a book every day and reread that story every day and said to ourselves, this is true. Yes, it's been going on our whole life. But you could take that book and rewrite, cross out little things in the book, go, no, I don't like that. No, not that anymore. Not that. That's basically what you're doing with a rewrite. The hardest thing, I think, is I choose to be willing to have our stories not clash, and then listen to all the reasons why your stories clash, and then take one at a time and go through them and figure out what's making the clash, because it will change everything. But here's the actual key. It's not him, assuming it's a son, that has to change. It's us. I had to change. Then that makes the difference. Then they have a place. It's like if you've ever cornered somebody and got mad at someone, if you think of animals when they corner each other up against the wall, well, when we are trying to change someone else, we're cornering them, and they're just going to resist it just like we would. So be willing. Hopefully that was helpful.
That's awesome. I definitely see how I had to do that with my 4th son, especially because we kind of butt heads, and it was like, oh, this kid is so hard and challenging. It's like, no, he is an individual. He has, it's like
gifts.
Deciding on the vocabulary I was going to use to describe him. Okay, we have another one. We have two more. Alita, her story that she wanted to get help shifting was she is not self-motivated.
Oh, okay. So you would say, I choose to be self-motivated. This is a story you're telling yourself. This is not true about you. You're
Mm-hmm.
just there, you just haven't found the thing that's motivating you, so you're going to have to, that's what you're working on, is finding that thing that motivates you. So I choose to be self-motivated. I am willing to be self-motivated, whichever way you want to write that. I choose to be willing to be self-motivated. I want you, you're going to do some heavy duty listening, because there's some stories that put you in the place where someone somewhere, yourself, worldview, some paradigm said to you, you're not self-motivated because you don't do this. Something hasn't interested you enough to motivate you, but you are self-motivated because you're self-motivated enough to not be self-motivated. So just keep listening to what it says to you. If I'm talking to you directly, I would keep asking you what you hear. So, but you can do it on your own.
Yeah, I have another one. I think that this is one that a lot of people, a lot of homeschoolers have challenges with, and that's, my sons will miss out on opportunities because I didn't know enough.
Hmm. I choose to know enough is where I would start. And then you're going to hear, I don't know enough. And then you'd say, I choose to know that I know enough right now. I cannot know anybody that knows enough ever, because if we do, we're dead. And I mean, I mean, really, we have nothing left to learn. So no, we don't know enough in the bigger sense, but we know enough to deal with each day. And I swear that whoever you're teaching, if you're spending your time and the heartfeltness that I feel behind your story, your question, to be giving them that, you know enough, because that's really what they want to know, is that you care about.
Back to the one before about she is not self-motivated. She was talking about her daughter, and she was so Alita was saying, so what I see in my daughter is a reflection of some part of myself.
Well, yeah, it's probably a story you share, but
Mm-hmm.
as much as we love our children, we try not to give them the same story that we've managed to attach to ourselves. So you want to help rewrite her story. So you see, if I'm going to use, Heidi's all about finding your genius. That's what it's about. So there's something going on with your daughter that is a genius, as with you. So discovering that will make it so both of you, maybe neither one of you, feel like you found the thing that motivates you on your own. So you get to help her discover what her genius is, which will make her self-motivated. When we really want to do something, we are all self-motivated.
Yeah, and Alita, also be sure and listen to the Bowler's presentation on confidence, helping your kids find confidence, and then I will be sending out a video for something I'm going to be sharing on motivation, helping your teens get motivated. So both of those will help you as well. Sally said, how do you choose to not be judgmental of others' stories? What perspective should we have with others in our lives who are choosing a story of overwhelm, depression, and wanting to quit? How do we not be offended by others' negative stories? That's a really good question.
It is a really good question, and I could give you a really long answer, but I'm going to give you a really short one instead, since that's probably what we need right now. Is it's hard. I'm going to admit that that's hard, but you're going to choose to not take things personally. That's what you're actually choosing to do. So you want to look behind the intent of your relationship with them. Is the if and how you think you're going to be able to help them not feel the way they are. First, you have to stop seeing them that way in your own head. So if you keep saying that story in your head about this is happening to them, this is happening to them, this is happening to them, what you want to do is rewrite a story about them. And the way to do that is to find this, what Heidi's calling the genius, find the qualities about them that are positive, even if it's so tiny, like they tie their shoes really well, or they're great teeth brushers. You're going to find some quality about them that you're going to focus on and hold on to that. I choose to see the good qualities about this person. And then as the other qualities come up, you're going to reverse them. So it's a process, but if you get that book that Heidi's going to give you, it has a lot in there about the I choose stuff, and all the shift books I write have tons of tools to do this. But you can, my best answer to you is you can rewrite your story first, that you take it personally. Instead, your intent is to see them who they really are, the real genius behind the story of depression.
Stacy says, this is so very helpful. I need to share with my husband. We could solve our relationship problems that are very difficult because they both want the power. Oh, that is so true.
Yeah.
Okay. Sean also is, my helper is saying, be sure to change your Zoom ID so that you have your first and last name so that you can be a winner. Thanks, Sean, for that. Also, Stacy said something about my son's relationship with his father. Son is 14. Yeah, that is a challenging age. And again, go to Stacy. I would highly recommend the Bowlers presentation. I'm sure they'll be talking about the teen years. I also spend quite a bit of time in my motivation class, so those will help specifically for that age. Sarah says, I would like to know more about how to walk away from a story about my past.
Okay. So first of all, remember, it's not what you remember. So I know that's hard because we like that story because it's set up a lot of other things, but it's still just a story. So when you walk away from your past, you can rewrite it first. And if we talk more about the concept of that you can rewrite your past, I'd have to go into quantum physics and all those things that go with it. But it actually is possible to say, let's say, I think a lot of people have I don't know your past story, but let's say your past story has a lot to do with it. You feel abandoned, because many of us have a past story that comes with that. So I, at some point, for my a small story, I felt that way, and so I wrote, I choose to not feel I am willing to rewrite the story of abandonment. And so one thing that I did for a long time was say to myself, I've never been abandoned. And that all I was trying to do, I wasn't lying about how I felt. I was trying to rewrite the story of abandonment. And along the way, it really took a while. It took days and days. I think it was a couple months that I would say that to myself every single day. I did not believe it. I'm not saying that you believe what you're going to say right away. And I know this sounds like an affirmation, but what I'm really saying, it's a rewrite. So because it's true, this is why I have to talk about the story. My basic story is that we are all perfect now. We just have misplaced our perfectness in a story. So I knew that the real story was I'd never been abandoned, even though the story I had read in my life was that I had. So I kept saying I've never been abandoned. And one day I saw the story differently. And I can't explain it because it would take all this time. But really, I saw the story differently, and I saw that I wasn't. That what I had perceived as abandonment was a way for me to learn something. And it changed a whole life story for me. I stopped looking for men in all the wrong places. So things like that do actually happen when you rewrite the story.
I think I missed one from our market. My son believes he's bad at math. Kind of covered that a little bit on different ways. Is there anything, one of the things I think is so important that we as homeschoolers have the opportunity to do is, because we are their teachers. So one of the things I think that's so important about homeschooling is that we can take that time to teach our kids this type of thing. And I know I've taken your imagination mastery class and gone through your workbook. I want to share that with my son. And so really sharing these concepts with your kids is, I think, so powerful. So anyway, let's do one more comment. Sally says, are you careful to rewrite things in the positive instead of I choose to not feel abandoned? Wouldn't it be more powerful and effective to the subconscious mind to say I am loved and accepted, or something specific? to addressing that abandonment.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. So yeah, that would kind of be more of an affirmation, but I was really trying to address the actual story that was being told to me. So that's why I used those terms, but you actually can rewrite it. You can say that any way you want. I choose often to address the actual. So it's like when you're editing a book, I'm actually looking at the words there and I'm changing those actual words. So that's why I did it that way, but you can do it the other way. I know that everybody wants to do just the positive, but we have to get rid of the antagonist that's writing the story. So sometimes you have to directly say to it, I choose not to listen to you.
Yeah, and the I choose part also. I mean, it's like you write one word and that negative one, and then it's like, okay, it might like start out negative, but it gets to positive after you've done it several times.
Yeah,
too,
you
right?
keep uncovering the negative, and then eventually you just end up at positive, and you go, aha, I'm back to, I'm to the protagonist now, because if you remember that you are the protagonist and we're rewriting the story of the antagonist, it makes a big difference.
Yeah, I love that. Shannon shared, I had a painful memory of the way my best friend had treated me. Eventually, I changed the story and finally healed when I started to say, as sad as it may sound, that she was never a true friend. So
that's a way to rewrite that story, because it is possible she was never a real friend, and then you can rewrite that story. So it's telling the truth, basically. Not going, oh, everything is rosy. It's this is not rosy, and I'm going to face and replace it with what I do want.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, Becca, thank you so much for all of this great information that we can use to help ourselves and our kids shift our stories. And I wanted to tell you that we have a winner, Charlotte York.
Does she know what she won?
I don't think she knows what she won, and I need to like share my screen so I can show her. And and I'm like, okay,
it's there somewhere.
Yeah, it's somewhere. I promise. Okay. Yeah, why don't you tell her? There we go. I have it all written out, but
it's okay. It's you get to spend some time with me. I hope that's a good thing. So we're going to do a speed shift, which is a 30-minute speed shift session with me. We'll probably go longer than that anyway. So we get to take whatever you want to talk about for 30 minutes and see where we can go with it.
Yeah, that'll be so cool. I'm so excited for you, Charlotte. So Charlotte, I need you to contact me either. Yeah,
it's a bunch of kids.
Yeah, so somebody with a bunch of kids sounds like happy kids.
Imagine that.
Yes, that's good. That's what homeschooling is about. Happy kids.
Yeah.
So we can get your email address, so we can hook you up with Becca, and you can figure out how to get that done. So anyway, thank you so much, Becca. I am very grateful for everything you've shared with us today. And yeah, all of you, we are, Becca, everybody's saying thank you. Yeah, and congratulations, Charlotte. I'm so I'm really excited for you. So, okay. Thank you again, Becca.
Thank you, Heidi.
Okay. Okay, so we have, I'm going to do, there we go. Okay, so it is, we have about 5 minutes until Camille, which Camille is there on the screen with us. So what we're going to do for just a minute, I'm going to give you just like 3 minutes. If you need to get up, use the restroom, or anything else, we're going to just take 3 minutes to quickly do that. And then we will be back with Camille for the best homeschooling mistakes I ever made. So Camille, we'll be right back to you, but we're going to give everybody just like 2 or 3 minutes to move around. and get right to Camille. So see you
Thanks.
in just a sec.